Thank you for joining us today. Please tell us your name and where you were born and grew up.
My name is Kenneth Ware. I grew up in North Alabama in a little town called Rogersville, Alabama.
And where did you go to school, Ken?
I graduated high school at Lauderdale County High School, and that was in 1950.
Right.
And then I left the farm and went to API, which was Alabama Polytechnic Institute at that point in time, to major in electrical engineering.
Well, now that's quite a switch from electrical engineering into being a COFA award with the American Dietetic Association. So tell us how that happened.
Well, it's a rather long story. I'm not sure you really want to hear it.
Well, you can give us the abridged version.
Anyway, my dad always wanted me to be an electrical engineer. But a couple of years there, I decided that I didn't really want to fly a desk. So I was also a country boy, and to eat at Auburn, and you can look at me and tell I like to eat. I worked in the college cafeterias. So I changed my major to industrial management and graduated in industrial management in 1954. But at the time, I'd also gone through the Air Force ROTC program, and they had commissioned me, but said they had graduated too many through the Air Force ROTC and asked that some of us, if we would, to go into graduate school. And at that point in time, I happened to be dating one of the people that you're interviewing today. I won't call any names, but she was a dietetic major. And I had already taken one elective course under Ms. Vandermark in nutrition and liked it. So I decided that I would just continue and go to class with the female friend that I was dating. So I enrolled in home economics and started my pursuit of a degree in food and nutrition.
That is a unique and interesting beginning.
Well, it didn't end there because I didn't have time to complete a master's because I had to go back and make up several prerequisite courses before the graduate school would admit me into good standing. In the interim then, the Air Force said, well, it's time to go and do your hitch of duty. But by then I had also worked my way through the student ranks to where I was considered a student special and was actually managing the snack bar in the Student Union building for Ms. Catherine Rush, who was the food service director at Auburn at that time. API was. And I went into Air Force and stayed for 2 years, fully thinking that I intended to make the Air Force a career and wanted to be a pilot. But I'd had a concussion when I was in the 7th grade. I jumped off of a cotton truck, and the last physical I had, I was DQ'd. And they wouldn't train me to be a pilot, so I wouldn't stay in the Air Force just to fly a desk. And I contacted Ms. Rush and asked if I could come back to Auburn, but she said, I don't have a job open. So I went back to Rogersville then and went to work at Ford Motor Company. They had built a new aluminum die casting plant adjacent to Reynolds Metals Company, and I was, even though it was considered industrial engineer, I was really nothing but a glorified secretary to the plant manager, Lou Biggerstaff. And after a year, the phone rang, and it was Ms. Rush. And she said that she had a job open at Auburn University. The name had changed. So I said, I'll take it. So I went back to Auburn, but with the understanding that I could take at least one 5-hour course each quarter. They were on the quarter system then, until I could complete my master's. So under the guidance of Ms. Vandermark, we did complete the master's in March of 1960. And in the interim, I had met my current wife in December, and she was majoring in pharmacy, but did not graduate until August, so I stayed on and worked at Auburn 28. And I had already interviewed Ms. Vandermark, my major professor, had a one-track mind, and that was that I was to work for Morrison's Cafeteria Incorporated. And I had already secured a job with Morrison's, and so after our honeymoon at Fontana Dam in Tennessee, we went to Savannah, Georgia, and began my career with Morrison's.
And you worked for Morrison's until you retired in?
Well, I worked there 34 years, and I've been retired 9 years now.
And along the way in your career, you have done a lot for the Alabama Dietetic Association and the American Dietetic Association. And perhaps it would be good to talk a little bit about, first of all, how did you get involved with ALDA? I know that Miss Vandermark got you into Morrison's, but then at some point you must have come back to Alabama.
Well, in those days, dietetics was broken into two sections, what we really called administrative dietetics as well as the clinical dietetics. And when Peg Anderson was the president of Alabama Dietetic Association, I happened to attend a meeting in Birmingham, and me and my big mouth, I didn't quite like the way things progressed at that meeting. And Cheryl Craig, who was the president-elect at the time, and Audrey Wright was there also, and I engaged them in conversation and said my say, and they said, well, if I didn't like things, I should become involved and work toward it. So I did, and held practically every office at the district level. I've been president two times, and then I began work at the state level, and as first ended holding down the administrative section and as a committee member. Then we progressed to where I wanted to enter into the politics of things, and so I let everybody know that I'd like to be considered one of Alabama's 2 delegates to national. So I ran for that office and was successful, and was in and out of that for 11 years and worked with a lot of our leaders in Alabama in the House of Delegates. And from the House of Delegates, and of course that led to working on various committees at the national level. In fact, in 1980, I was on the Career Guidance, which is now a defunct committee at the national level. And along with Rebecca Reeves, I can remember she was on the committee, one of our former ADA presidents just a few years back. It was our little committee that said that the RDs should be the recognized nutritional profession. So that's one of the legacies that I feel like I have made.
And then you worked a lot on the foundation too.
Foundation was always my love, because I realized that students need money to go to college, because I certainly needed all the financial help I could get. So I've worked feverishly for the foundation ever since I've been able to. And from the late 80s through the early 90s, I've served on the board of directors for 2 different times.
Right, and you were the chair.
Each term is 3 years, and I've been chairman of the board for 2 years.
And I remember one of your goals as chair of the ADA Foundation was that you wanted to meet $1 million goal that year, raise $1 million.
Well, that was in my last tour, and actually Polly Fitz, who was our former president chairman on the foundation board, and I followed Polly. She had the idea that we should create a scholarship, create a fund that would, the proceeds could go to dietitians to do what we call bench research. So when I came on the scene the next year, I had the board set a goal of $1 million, and we set out to do that. And we were lucky, we did it. And fund is now approaching $2 million, and last year gave out the first $35,000 grant for research to one of our own members.
In Alabama?
No.
Is that what you mean when you say one of our? You mean
she was
an ADA member?
An ADA, a dietitian. She actually has her PhD, but she did her internship at the University of Alabama, but she's in the state of Indiana now.
Well, now I need to stop you there because you say internship, and I don't believe I asked you how you became a dietitian. Where did you do an internship?
Well, we had at ADA you had other routes you could become a member then, and so I did what was called a 3-year pre-planned experience. This was with the guidance of 3 dietitians on campus at Auburn. Of course, with Ms. Rush being the lead dietitian, Jean Armour, and Eva Richards, who was the dietitian over women's dining hall. And they guided me through 3 years of work experience, and that's how I became a dietitian.
Did you not have any hospital rotations?
Yes, we rotated through what was then Lee County Hospital.
All right, so we've got that little detail, and then you became a member of ADA, of course, in
1959.
In the year, that's 10 years before we ever had registration.
That's correct.
So you were one of the group that was grandfathered.
I was grandfathered.
You have won a medallion award.
In 93.
And you were a COFA awardee. You won
in
the
2000.
highest. And I believe the first male to win the COFA award. Is that correct? First male dietitian?
I think so.
I think so. So your work with both the state and the national has certainly been recognised. The contributions have been remarkable over the years, Ken.
Thank you for saying that, but I also have to appreciate Morrison's because my boss has always encouraged me and supported me both at work and financially to attend the meetings and to be active. So I owe a great deal to those people also.
And what is your fondest? What is the thing that you most that lights up your life when you think about ALDA and ADA?
What I did?
The profession. Well, the things that it's given, the profession's given you.
Oh, there are lots of things. But another one of my legacies that I hope people remember when I'm gone is that when we had what was called a National Nutrition Week, when I was a delegate, I wrote a resolution and carried to the House of Delegates to change the National Nutrition Week to National Nutrition Month. And the delegates and people in California are probably still very upset with me for doing that. But after much deliberation, we passed the resolution, and now we have a National Nutrition Month. But I did that because when we only had 1 week, it was never possible for corporate to get all the supplies back to the state and everything in a timely manner. Usually Nutrition Week was over before nutrition supplies came in, so it's worked very well. My proudest accomplishment, though, we've already mentioned, and that is creating that endowed scholarship fund where our own can have research money.
Right. And I would also point out that you and Jackie endowed a scholarship for specifically for minority members of
That's
ADA.
True.
And I would like to say at this point that at least as of now, we define minority within the association as also being male.
Correct.
So it's male members and then members of the ethnic and racial minorities are eligible for that.
And it is open to all. Correct.
And I noticed in the journal this month that's just been published that there's a male who's been, I believe this year, who has won that.
So far, a male has gotten it each year.
Oh, okay. Well, I know that makes you proud because male membership in the association still runs around 7%. It has not increased very much over the years. It's despite our efforts to recruit males into educational programs and to make it an attractive career path. So you are one of the trailblazers in the association, and certainly have.
Well, I facetiously tell everybody I came off a Noah's Ark.
Well, Ken, we could go on talking for a long time, but I have to just say at this point, thank you so much for sharing these memories with us today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you.